Chapter 13. New Threats.
Taylor gave Tricia a long hug, and then she climbed into the SUV with Austin. He leaned into the window. "You can do this, Austin. I know you can," Taylor said. Austin just nodded in reply. He looked deep into her eyes. "You be careful," Taylor said. "You too," she said, and gave him a kiss. Austin waited for Taylor to pull his head out of the way. Then he started the SUV and put it into gear. Tricia pulled out of the driveway and into the night. Taylor stood watching until they were out of sight. Then he went over to the SUV that Nathan and another vampire were to drive in. Taylor got in and they drove out into the night. Nathan had been researching over the last few days, and he'd found and tracked down a serial killer. He abducted young boys and abused them, and then after weeks of torture, he would kill them. Nathan was not sure how many times it had happened, but he knew of at least 5 times. Nathan was visibly shaking. Taylor started to worry a little bit. "You okay?" Taylor asked. I hope so," Nathan said. "It's not easy, but you can do it," Taylor said confidently. "You're a lot stronger than you give yourself credit for." Nathan felt stronger. He straightened up in his seat. He had decided to do this, so now it was time to do the job. They pulled up to the killer's house, and Nathan went from nerves to business in a moment. Taylor smiled. He could feel Nathan's surge of confidence. Nathan had decided to do this last step without anyone there. Taylor had been confused by the choice at first. Now he was no longer concerned. Nathan quickly stepped out of the car. He slipped up to the door and knocked lightly. The blurry-eyed killer opened his door. He was immediately forced into his home. His eyes grew wide, and soon he realized what Nathan was there for. "You know why I'm here," Nathan said matter-of-factly. He pushed the killer down in the chair. Are you here to arrest me?" The man stuttered nervously. "No, that would take too long. I'm here to carry out your execution," Nathan growled at him. Nathan let the fear sink. Nathan wanted him to feel some small amount of the terror that he had inflicted on others. Finally, Nathan went in and completed the job he had come to do. Taylor and the driver sat nervously in the car, and after what seemed like hours, Nathan emerged from the house and got into the SUV. His face was half covered with blood. They sped off into the night. Taylor got Nathan into his room. 2 others had beaten them back, but much to Taylor's dismay, Tricia and Austin were not among them. Taylor made sure Nathan was okay one more time, and then went to the front of the mansion to help with others, but more so look for Tricia and Austin. As the others came in, Taylor grew more and more nervous. All the others arrived and were in their rooms, with the exception of Austin and Tricia. Taylor sat at his post on the front steps of the mansion, desperately looking at the gate for the SUV. The SUV pulled out of the gate, and Tricia gave Austin a reassuring smile. "You ready?" she asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," Austin replied. "Thanks for coming with me." "You don't have to thank me. You already did the same for me." They talked as they drove into the night. Austin had picked his person before he'd even known he was converting. The girl he had picked had abused him from the time he was 5. She had been his babysitter and abused him in every way possible. They talked about this as they drove. What neither of them ever noticed is the car that trailed them. Within 10 minutes, they pulled into an apartment complex. Tricia walked with Austin to the door and went in with him. The woman immediately recognized Austin and started to scream at him, thinking she still had control over him. Austin made it as quick as he could, and soon they were leaving the door and going back to the SUV. But as they approached, 4 nightshade vampires stood between them. "You need to come with us," one of them said. Tricia, knowing the need for haste, responded by jumping at the first vampire. This took them by surprise. Tricia fought, beating the vampires back, and she was able to get Austin into the SUV. "You can make it, go!" she said. Austin, barely holding on to his own thoughts over the bloodlust, threw the truck in drive and slammed on the gas. Tricia now squared herself for a fight. She put the worry aside for Austin and began to parry the many blows that came from the 4 nightshades. She held them off for a while, but finally the main one got a few blows in that threw her off her rhythm. Soon she was overwhelmed, tied up, and thrown into the car. They gagged her and drove into the night. The car stopped driving at a mansion. They pulled Trisha out again and she began to fight. But now even more Nightshade forced her into the house. She was tied in a chair and watched as she waited. The curtains were drawn, but from what she could see at least, the room was decorated in an old Victorian style. She sat in a high-backed chair. "I trust my minions weren't not too rough with you," a rich, deep voice asked. "Not as rough as I was with them," Trisha snapped back. The vampire came into view, and Trisha was overwhelmed by the power that flowed from him. "Don't be smart, young lady. You have no idea who you are dealing with." Other than the vampire not wearing a cape, he fit every other stereotype of a vampire. He looked like he was straight out of a Hollywood movie. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Lugosi," Trisha smited back. For the comment, she got smacked hard across the face. "You will learn your place, young one. I promise you that," the vampire said. "The fuck do you want from me?" Trisha asked. "Nothing, girl. I want nothing from you at all. I want your new boyfriend. He is what I'm really after. Without him, your little gang won't last long." The vampire had gotten to her. The worry was in her eyes, and he spotted it right away. "Did you honestly think that I did not know about your pathetic little gang?" the vampire asked. Trisha did not answer. "Ah, the young. Always so naive. Well, rest assured, little girl. I knew of Taylor the moment he entered my city. As for your gang, I have known of your pathetic plan to take out the Nightshade for a while." He grinned, showing her his fangs. Trisha said nothing, but she could not hide the worry on her face. "The Nightshade is not some upstart gang. We have been around for generations. For longer than you've even been alive. We control this and every major city. You are no threat to us," he stated. Trisha felt a surge of anger. "But you're afraid of Taylor," Trisha spit out. "No, girl, not afraid. I want to know about his mentor. He is just another pathetic new blood that won't last 100 years. Bullshit. He's something special, and you know it," Trisha replied, and received another slap across the face. "I tire of you, girl," he said, and stalked out of the room. She was left alone, although she knew there were Nightshade near, watching her. She closed her eyes. "Taylor, I think I need your help," she thought. Austin tried desperately to think of what to do, as the scene he sped away from became a blur. "Trisha," he thought, but soon his thoughts were back to blood. He drove the car wildly. However, somehow he remembered to get to Nathan's house. He pulled into the gate and aimed for the front door and let the car go. Taylor stood up when he saw headlights, but almost immediately he knew something was horribly wrong. His fears were confirmed when the SUV crashed into the stairs, and Austin fell out of the open door. He ran over and scooped up Austin. "What happened?" he asked. Austin gurgled out, "Ambushed. Trisha was taken by the Nightshade. Told me to get back here. Sorry. So sorry." Austin sobbed. "You did great, Austin. Let's get you to your safe room," Taylor said, and ran into the shelter. He was safe in his room, but still holding on to himself. "Taylor?" he asked. Taylor got to the microphone and replied, "I'm here." Taylor asked, his heart in his throat. "I don't know where they took her, but there was 4 of them. Find her, Taylor. You have to find her." Austin croaked out. "I will. Don't worry. Just get through what you need to get through right now," Taylor said. He wanted to ask questions, however, he knew it was astonishing that Austin had even made it back here, and fought the bloodlust long enough to tell Taylor what had happened. Taylor left the shelter and Ashley ran into him on the rear lawn. "What the hell happened?" she asked. "Trisha and Austin got ambushed on the way back, by Nightshade," is what he said. Taylor said, tears now rolling freely down his face. "We can't stand against them yet," Ashley replied, taking a grim decision of a leader. "You can't, maybe," Taylor said, pulling away from her grasp and running through the house. He jumped into the wrecked SUV and drove to Tricia's house. There he put on his leathers and went to his bike. It was time to let some of that power come out.